There's been a lot of great rivalries throughout time. Vikings versus the Packers, UNC versus Duke, Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, and the Hatfields and the McCoys. But today we are talking about Minneapolis versus St. Paul. These two cities couldn't be more different. There is such a dividing line, more than just the Mississippi River that divides the two, Minneapolis on the west bank and St. Paul on the east bank. But I'm here to give you my insight to what really makes these two towns so very different. So let's get right into this one. Minneapolis is a larger city than St. Paul by about 130,000 people or so. St. Paul was established a bit before Minneapolis was, but the biggest differences are in what takes place in those cities. You see, Minneapolis, they are really well known for having amazing nightlife. There is great restaurants that are there. There is sports that has St. Paul pretty well trumped depending on what sports you're into. So Minneapolis has the Minnesota Timberwolves at the Target Center. They have the Minnesota Twins at the Target Field. They have the Minnesota Vikings at the brand new US Bank Stadium, and they kind of dominate St. Paul on that. Now on the St. Paul side, we do have the Excel Center. That is, we are the state of hockey. So how many extra points is it that we have the Minnesota Wild over in St. Paul? Probably quite a few. We also have the brand new Allianz Field, which is where the brand new MLS soccer team, the Minnesota United, play, as well as we have CHS Field, which is where the St. Paul Saints play. They are a minor league team, but these games are, in my opinion, probably a little bit more fun than Twins games are. A lot of fun. If you come to St. Paul, to the lower town area, you got to check them out. So back to Minneapolis. What else does Minneapolis have? Well, Minneapolis has a really legitimate art scene. There's some phenomenal museums. The Walker Art Center was recently redone. The Guthrie was recently redone. The Sculpture Garden is absolutely amazing. They do have the art crawl that takes place in Minneapolis in the Northeast community every year. There is a St. Paul art crawl, but unfortunately it's just never gotten quite as big. So Minneapolis may have St. Paul trumped in the art scene. There's just a lot of artists, folks, in Minneapolis. Minneapolis also has a really great music scene. You see, we have a lot of great acts that come to Minneapolis, and there's been a lot of great acts that have started in Minneapolis. They do have First Avenue. If you're a fan of Prince, Purple Rain, that's where that was filmed. There is amazing acts that have gotten their start at First Avenue. It is definitely a destination and one to go check out. St. Paul, on the other hand, is kind of the sleepy little sister of Minneapolis. We don't have the crowds that Minneapolis has, but some people really like not having those big crowds to deal with here in St. Paul. My office is located in St. Paul, in case you were wondering, and I was born and raised here, so maybe I have a little bit of allegiance to it. One of the places that I really love in St. Paul is the Como Zoo. This is one of very few free zoos that is in the entire nation. You can literally go there for $0. They would like you to make a little donation, but you don't have to. It also has the conservatory, which is one of my favorite places to visit in the cold winter months. Walking through there, it feels like you are transported into essentially a whole nother world. It is wonderful in there. It's always 75 degrees, and it's a phenomenal place to go on a cold winter day. Minneapolis and St. Paul are typically ranked in the top 5 cities in the entire nation for their parks and trail systems. There is so much to do in the summers. People get out, they enjoy the parks. If you want to go into Minneapolis, go around Pade-Makaska. It's kind of the chain of lakes. There's a lot going on. If you want to be seen, go walk around the lakes, go run around the lakes. There's always some activities. You can rent canoes, all that fun type of stuff. St. Paul, on the other hand, I would say they have a lot more trails and a lot more individual lakes that don't get quite so busy with trails that go around them. A big rivalry between Minneapolis and St. Paul is the food scene. Minneapolis does have a little bit more of the upper end food scene, and if you're looking for a really fancy meal, something really romantic, you probably want to go across the river over there and enjoy Minneapolis. But if you're looking for a little bit more laid back of a vibe, if you want a really great dive bar, St. Paul is where it's at. St. Paul is home to the Spot Bar, which is actually the oldest bar in the state, as far as I know, or that one might be in North St. Paul, but it's at least the oldest bar in St. Paul. It's a really cool spot in the West 7th neighborhood, which is a vibrant community and very, very cool. If you want to talk about the economies of each city, you know, they're so close to each other that there's not a whole lot that's different. But I will tell you that St. Paul's housing prices can be up to about 20% cheaper than Minneapolis, as well as traditionally have a little bit lower taxes as well. So if you're looking for a little bit less on the cost of living side, St. Paul is definitely where you should go. And Minneapolis is really just a few minutes away. So Minneapolis and St. Paul really do have a lot of differences between them. St. Paul, definitely a little bit older, a lot more architecture, a lot more laid back. Minneapolis, definitely a little bit newer of a community, definitely a little bit cooler in some people's eyes. I love St. Paul. Curious to know, what's your favorite? Let me know in the comments. We'll see you guys next time.